Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close Up, Iowa prepares for its second Thanksgiving during the pandemic. What doctors say you can do to keep your family safe this holiday. 5 weeks after walking off the job, John Deere union workers agreed to a new contract. The effect this may have on future labor disputes in Iowa. Historic School Board Des Moines has all female members for the first time ever. We talk with the 3 newest members about what they want to change.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
We're just 4 days away from our second Thanksgiving during the COVID pandemic. And while more people are planning to travel than last year, that doesn't mean those people are ignoring COVID. A recent study by the Ohio State Wexner Medical Study found 62% said they plan to celebrate Thanksgiving with no more than 10 close family members of their household. 67% of those holding a Thanksgiving celebration said they would consider asking guests to wear masks. And 82% of those surveyed said they would ask a guest who exhibit COVID symptoms not to attend. So what can you do to have a somewhat normal Thanksgiving and not put you or your family and friends at risk? KCCI's Marcus McIntosh recently talked with a doctor at Unity Point about what can be done to stay safe this holiday.
This year, I think that we have a little more hope to be able to have gatherings at home with family members and friends for the holidays because we have a vaccine available. But the main point in order to be able to celebrate these holidays safely is to be able to meet or gather with people who are fully vaccinated. And of course, being cognizant that if you are sick, if you're having any symptoms that could be COVID, refrain yourself from attending that gathering. And this is an important message for everyone in the community. It's not only about COVID-19, but also encouraging people to get vaccinated for flu as well, as this is the right season for flu. And we are starting to see more cases now in the community. And my advice could be, we can plan now to have some gatherings with family and friends, which is different to what happened for the last year that we had to avoid those, but being safe and do it in a careful manner with people who are fully vaccinated around you. Ideally is to have everyone vaccinated, right? But we understand that there are certain family members who, for some reason, don't want to get vaccinated, and people actually who are also unable to build a good response to the vaccines anyway. And in those cases, I think that what I could recommend to people to have is to do at least a rapid antigen the day of the gathering. In those results, you can have it in 20, 30 minutes and at least give you a peace of mind that that person who is not currently having any symptoms and has a negative antigen at least has less chances to transmit any infection to the people getting together for the holidays. Personally, I think that we can extend it a little bit more to just the household, as long as you know that people are have been very careful and, the majority of them are vaccinated. I think it's safe to probably extend it a little bit. I don't favor yet big gatherings when there is such a crowd that we cannot even space out or maintain certain distance from each other. I think that if you drive in your car and it's a reasonable, distance and you travel with your households, that's totally fine. That's totally safe. I think traveling via flights or airplanes is safe as long as you wear your mask and continue all the CDC recommendations. And we need to be very cognizant that in the airport, we are going to have big crowds as well in the waiting areas as well. So I recommend people who wants to travel to be very careful, wear their mask at all times, try to space out from other people that you don't know. And during the plane flight, of course, keep your mask on at all times as well. And keeping your hand sanitizer, wash your hands as soon as you can, and try to avoid, having your hands contaminated before you're going to eat. So if you're going to eat or grab something with your hands that you're going to put in your mouth, you need to wash your hands or use your hand sanitizer, of course. We are going to see an increased number. And after the holidays, we may have an uptick number of the cases. As you know, the northern states are still seeing increasing numbers. Even though we are seeing in general less cases, we are still having an increased number compared to other states in the South that are kind of slowing down. But this is something that can change anytime with the holidays, and we need to be very careful with that. And that's why it's so important to have everyone vaccinated as soon as they can, if they haven't been able to be vaccinated yet. Now we have all these cohort of kids between 5 and 12-year-old that are eligible for vaccines, and I highly encourage parents to please get their kids vaccinated. The majority of them won't be, of course, fully vaccinated for Thanksgiving, but if we vaccinate them now, they are going to be fully vaccinated and having less risk of getting sick and also transmitting the disease to others by Christmas and New Year's Eve.
Well, the health experts have said it for some time. Vaccination is your best protection against COVID-19, but another drug may offer a surprising amount of protection. A University of California study showed fewer deaths among COVID patients who took antidepressants. I spoke with Dr. Yogesh Shah of Broadlawns Medical Center about why that may work.
And what they did was, it was a national study. It was a retrospective study, meaning they looked into the past records from 87 different centers around the US. Almost 500,000 people, 84,000 of them had COVID. So they studied patients from 84,000 who had COVID, and then they saw how many were on some form of SSRI and how many were not. So that's the study you're talking about more recently. And they found, as you mentioned, that 8% of any SSRI patients had less chance of likelihood of dying. There has been a good study on this topic. One of them, which came in the Lancet, which is our medical journal we read. The study is called Together, and where that intentionally gave this drug with placebo. So it's called, in medical terms, called randomized placebo trials, where this was shown to be effective. 2 or 3 mechanisms which are part of SSRI, which might have helped. One of them is anti-inflammatory properties, meaning once my body has some infection, many other conditions, my body has developed the inflammation process. We call it the cytokinin storm. And these medications, SSRI as a group, has capacity to reduce that anti-inflammation. So that's one. The second, a smaller effect is also the SSRI increase a substance in our brain, all of our brains, called melatonin, which helps us to relax and sleep better, and they increase that also. So that's the second one. This does not replace the need to take COVID vaccination. So that's one. That we all need to take the COVID vaccine to protect and develop the antibodies, what we need for future defense. That's one. Second, this was the main study you mentioned, today's study you mentioned from UCSF Stanford, was a retrospective studies, people taking SSRI for their depression and anxiety. The Brazilian study, which was in Lancet, was 10-day study where people got fluoxetine and specifically to treat. But no, I would not recommend yet. It's mainly meant for, this was an international study, it's meant for people in a poorer country where they would not have access to vaccine yet, and they might be able to take it, avoid the hospitalization by 32%, and even the death by 32%. Most providers, most doctors have prescribed, used for their patients, and many of us might have used for ourselves. So it's a very well-proven treatment for depression and anxiety for early 80s for a long time, with very well, if positive effect, very few side effects. Anti-inflammation of it was, at least in my knowledge, I had not heard before these studies came out. So it was surprising, but it's nice to see that it has positive results. I've read about it recently about COVID effect, and there are, so far, it looks promising. But as I mentioned, I would not go out and give prescriptions to patients, but it looks promising. There are more than 20,000 studies around the world going on how to deal with this new pandemic we have, COVID virus. And 300 of them look pretty promising. And this is one of them, which is on the positive direction. So we need a little bit more time, more data to come out and see how it will work and help more people. But meanwhile, it's still not late to take your vaccine, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. And pretty soon, AstraZeneca, which was in trial in the US, will come out with also. So please take your vaccine and protect yourself.
Next on Close Up, 3 new members sworn on to Des Moines School Board. The changes they plan to bring to Iowa's largest school district. A new contract ends a 5-week strike at John Deere. How that strike could affect other labor disputes.
Oh yeah, Archie. The Pilgrims love action.
John Deere union members returned to work Thursday, 5 weeks to the day after they walked off their jobs. The workers here in Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas rejected Deere's first and second offers. Wednesday, union workers accepted Deere's third contract offer. That contract offered raises, gave new employees a pension option, and allowed them to maintain their no premium health coverage. KCCI political reporter Cynthia Fodor talked with President of the Iowa Federation of Labor, Charlie Wishman, who says the Deere strike will have effects on other labor disputes in the near future.
So this has been a important labor dispute, not just for Iowa, not just for Western Illinois, but for the entire country. And what it showed was that workers were able and are able to stand up and fight for what they deserve, and in the end, they're able to reach a fair contract, not just something that's imposed upon them. Worker rights and worker power is at an all-time high right now, it was very, very important what John Deere workers did.
61%, 62% agreed with this. What did they like about this contract?
So it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is that really made the difference. But I think that there were a number of things that that John Deere management moved on that did make it a lot more palatable for the members of the United Auto Workers to vote in favor of this as a majority. All of the things that are so essential to families and any family. It's health care, it's wages, it's benefits, it's retirement security. And in addition, there was a lot of issues around bonus or incentive pay that didn't seem to be addressed until perhaps this final contract. This is the beginning, I believe, of a worker uprising. And the reason why I say that is, this wasn't just a fight that happened in Iowa or in the United States or in the world. This was a whole lot of scrappy Iowans and folks from Illinois who took on one of the wealthiest companies in the entire United States, and they weren't afraid to do that. For so long, workers really didn't appreciate their value, or at least didn't know what their value was. They had been told for so long that they didn't have any. John Deere workers stood up, made a difference, and set an incredible example for workers, non-union and union, all across the country and all across the world. I don't think that anybody ever wants to strike or go out on strike. That's not the goal of what labor management relations are. But sometimes you have to do that to be able to advance your cause. And I'm certain that people are happy to be back to work.
Deere Chairman and CEO John C. May released this statement about the end of their 5-week strike. It says, "I'm pleased our highly skilled employees are back to work building and supporting the industry-leading products which make our customers more profitable and sustainable." Well, they're the newest members of the all-female Des Moines School Board. Next on Close Up, what changes they want to see in Iowa's largest school district.
Here at Precision, we know that when it gets cold,
It was a historic week for the Des Moines School Board. For the first time in its history, the board is now made up entirely of women. Now that happened after voters elected Jackie Norris, Jenna Knox, and Maria Alonso Diaz in the November 2nd elections. So what do these new members hope to accomplish for Iowa's largest school district? KCCI's Cynthia Fodor spoke to all three.
I'm feeling really emotional. I think that the community's presence, I think, is really important. I also am aware that I am the first Latina to serve on the board, and that means a lot for our community. I'm excited about the work that is to be done. I know that as a board, we have a lot of work to do. I think that we're going to have a great team. It's all women, and I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that.
I am very excited to serve on Des Moines Public School Board because I am joining a group of women who represent multiple perspectives, whether it's social services or it's mental health, it's education, it's business. And I think we'll take the perspectives of all of us and use that to inform our decision making in Des Moines. And our kids need us, our students need us right now, and our job is to represent the vision and values of the community and get stuff done.
Absolutely. It's so full circle, you know, being a student in the district and then a parent, and then now to sit at that table. It's really humbling, and I take it very, very seriously. And I hope to be a good voice for the north side of Des Moines that elected me. You know, my goals are really a few things. Number one, when I was watching all of those meetings, realizing how few others were. And I really want to lift up voices, especially here on the north side of Des Moines, where I reside, and make sure that those parent and community voices are being engaged and are being utilized to their full capacity. And then I think just also really trying to navigate and find opportunities with the new legislation that was passed at the end of the session. How can we emerge from that stronger as a district? And so I'm just eager to get there and start to ask questions and generate ideas and bring the community to the table a little more.
One of the things that I had a lot of interest in seeing change in our district is the presence of parents in the school district, having more parent engagement. And I'm looking forward to working on developing ways to enhance presence of parents in support of their students and also of teachers and educators.
The thing that I'm really curious about, and it's a question that I'll ask, understanding I'm one of 7 on a school board, is why aren't we harnessing the power of our students that are coming from other countries, as well as the power of the students that we have that live in America and speak English? How could you create some learning? They both have power. They both have an expertise. How could they teach each other at a younger age? And I don't know. It's an idea in my head, and I have a lot of ideas in my head, but I'm going to try and work that one through.
Once again, that was Cynthia Fodor. One problem all 3 new board members must tackle are the effects of the COVID pandemic on graduation rates. So this week, KCCI's chief investigative reporter James Stratton looked into just how many students didn't graduate in 2021.
This looks like a normal day of class at North High School. Masks on, in-person learning is back and has been this year.
Our students and our staff have endured a heck of a lot the last couple of years.
It took a lot for the school to look like this again. Virtual learning and a mix of virtual and in-person have been the norm for so long, according to North Principal Ben Graber.
In the pandemic, we did school, but we did emergency school. You know, like, that's the reality.
The reality is that balancing that emergency school and the COVID-19 pandemic proved tough for kids in DMPS schools. Numbers obtained by KCCI Investigates through an open records request show in a typical recent year, roughly 287 DMPS seniors don't graduate and must serve a 5th year. After the 2020 school year, that number jumped to 352 and nearly doubled to 613 after the 2021 school year. DMPS educators point to a couple of things that caused that surge. First, life events during the pandemic.
They all went through something. Their families went through something. A lot of them worked to support their family.
On top of that,
I don't necessarily have the same access to my teacher that I've had historically. Teachers are less able to monitor for learning. It's harder to do virtually.
185 of the 613 kids graduated after taking summer classes this year. That brings the number down to 428 kids still in school for a 5th year this school year.
We're really proud of the fact that even though we started further in the hole, we've been able to accelerate the credit acquisition and kids graduating.
Another way DMPS is helping kids graduate, it says, through what it calls Core Diploma. That has fewer credits than a regular diploma, but focuses on core classes for kids who have had a major life event.
I can tell you we have had a major increase in the number of core diploma students that will look to graduate with 18 credits instead of 23.
But overall, being in school is what also helps kids and teachers move forward.
We're codependent. I mean, we need those kids in front of us, and they need us in front of them.
Back to normal classes in a world that is anything but, working together to get kids to graduate.
That was KCCI's James Stratton reporting. Now, James also filed an open records request with other school districts across the area to see if they were experiencing the same problems. Of those that responded, none had a significant number. Urbandale, Johnston, and West Des Moines all had fewer than 10 students, and Indianola also had very few. Next on Close Up, what happened when Iowa State University researchers put America's vaccination strategy to the test?
Spread love and joy year-round by gifting.
Well, last year at this time, we were waiting for a COVID vaccine to help end the pandemic. That vaccine arrived in Iowa last December, but because vaccine supplies were limited, the CDC recommended staggering the release to just medical personnel and long-term care residents first, adding other groups along the way. But was that the best strategy to get a limited amount of vaccine out into the public as fast as possible? Well, Iowa State University researchers looked to answer that question. They tested more than 17.5 million possible vaccine strategies on their supercomputer and found the one that was implemented here in the U.S. worked extremely well and limited COVID deaths, as well as cutting down on new cases. Well, thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here same time next Sunday. Have a fantastic day.